online relationships. This is a reality. This is how things are really happening nowadays. And it is possible for it to begin that way, but it can't stay that way. It's okay to begin in this way, but it's got to eventually go into the real world. And that's where it becomes complete. Because in the Lakota ancient world, when we look at something, it has to meet four requirements. And those requirements are the physical, the mental, the spiritual, and the emotional. It's got to meet all four requirements. Okay? Now, before the internet, there were personals, stuff like that, but still people ended up meeting each other. So you couldn't connect with somebody with your mind. Like maybe you experience the same kind of things in your life, or maybe there's similar life stories that you both have. And so you connect there, and then maybe you feel an emotional bonding happening, and that's beautiful. And then it gets to the point where it's so intense, it's so beautiful, and so wonderful that it becomes a spiritual experience. Now you're really getting someplace. What is really nice about this is that both people are in the same location. They're meeting someplace, whether it's a restaurant or a bed and breakfast or whatever. That people are in the same place, they're right in front of each other. And when you are in front of each other, you feel more. It might be a little bit nervous at first, but that's okay. That's how things are when they start for the first time. There's always a little bit of nervousness. That's normal. But once you overcome that and you start talking to each other about anything, just talk. Say something. Yeah? Because when you're talking to each other, your bodies are also talking to each other in their own language. Our bodies have their own language. This is our belief system. So when you're sitting beside somebody, their bodies are talking to each other. They're starting to become receptive towards each other. See, this is connecting in the physical. This has nothing to do with sex. This is just being beside that person or in front of them. And your bodies are starting to get used to each other. That's making a connection in the physical. So in something like this, it's meeting all four requirements. It's meeting the physical, the mental, the emotional, and the spiritual. See, it has met all four requirements. That's really important. It has a good start. It's giving it a really good foundation. Now, it depends on both of you. If you want to continue to build this, to continue nurturing this relationship, it's up to both of you. You both have to want it. And then you do it. It's just like however you live your life, your relationship is going to be the same way. So you can try to really be super nice and super friendly to your partner. But if you're not really that way to others, your partner's going to find out. Because what you're doing is you're wearing a mask. And masks, they're not permanent. They're going to fall off. They're going to wear away. And your partner might be wearing a mask too. Because like attracts like. And sometimes you may not even know that you're wearing a mask. You may not even know about the emotional part. So, how can you take care of something if you don't know it exists? So, we end up being in a denial and we're not even aware of it. See, most of us have one because we get it because of the way Western society is. Western society programs people so that they don't see with clarity. So when we look at the world, yes, we see the trees and the butterflies and the unicorns and unicorns. No, I'm just kidding. But we see, of course we see, but we're not seeing completely. We don't know it. Yeah? This means we're wearing a mask, but we don't know it. We're not aware. Because Western society is dualistic. See, that's why I talk about dualism. Dualism is when you see things only in two perspectives, the one you like and the one you don't like. And you say the one you don't like is they're the bad ones, they're the evil ones. We must prove that we are right, and then they will follow us. And if they don't follow us, then we must destroy them. Think of all the world's problems that are caused by that kind of thinking. That is duality. And we learn these things, whether it's in school, in church, or watching romance movies, reading romance books, songs, where you hear, I can't live without you, or I'm nothing without you, things like that that really create a dependency. That's not love. That's an addiction to a false idea of love. And that's what we're programmed with. And as a byproduct of that programming, we get a mask. And we don't even know it. Everybody says body, mind, soul. You go to a health spa, it says body, mind, soul, health spa. Body, mind, soul, this, and body, mind, soul, that. But you hardly ever hear body, mind, heart, and soul. You hardly ever hear that. Heart representing the emotional. Because Western society does not want you to be emotionally developed. That's how tricky duality is. Now, things will always change, so you have to be ready, but not worry about it. If you're going through a good experience right now, enjoy it. Don't worry about, is this going to last forever? Is this going to last the rest of my life? Don't worry about that. You don't know that, so don't worry about things you don't know, okay? Worry about the things you do know right now that you know 100% are true. That's what you focus on. So you enjoy your relationship or whatever it is that's making you feel happy. You enjoy that as it is happening right now, right this very second. You focus on that. So it doesn't matter how long a relationship lasts. That's not important. What is important is, did you enjoy it? And when something or anything doesn't turn out in a healthy way, you have to come to peace with it. Because if you don't come to peace with it, you're going to go into an emotional denial, which means you're going to get a mask. And you're not even going to be aware of it. And that means you're going to attract somebody who's unhealthy. Because when you are wearing a mask, it doesn't matter how good you think you are. It doesn't matter how many ceremonies you go to. You still have that mask on, which means there's still an unhealthy energy inside of you. And that means you're going to attract something unhealthy, because like attracts like. So when you come out of it, you will attract somebody nice. That's important, to be emotionally developed. Because when you're not, things are going to mess up. Even when you think you're living right. Like I said, it doesn't matter how many ceremonies you go to, you're still going to fuck up because you're wearing a mask. And like I said, the sad reality is most of us don't even know it because we're not emotionally developed. Emotional well-being. Some people call it emotional intelligence. That's a nice word too. I prefer well-being. Yeah. sounds sounds nicer, yeah. Because even CIA has the word intelligence in it, and I don't like that. Oh, gosh. Anyway, when you don't have that emotional development, things are going to go disastrous. So the bottom line is this: when you are going to be in a relationship, you got to first of all satisfy those four requirements. If you want a healthy relationship, you can't deny the emotional part of yourself. You cannot neglect the difficulties from your past. You've got to face them, and you've got to come to peace with them. Otherwise, your relationships are not going to be healthy. No matter how good you live or try to live, if you are not emotionally developed, you're not 100%. So it's difficult enough when you meet somebody in person. Before the internet existed, maybe we go to some kind of social gathering and we see somebody that, catches our attention, and we go over there and start talking and how are you doing and all that kind of thing. Hey, you want to go do this? Hey, should we play footsies? Or something like that. You want to share a bowl of tanija soup? Why not? Yeah. Oh man, that's true love. Yeah, when you can share a bowl of tanija soup, that's true love. It's like, but then you got to take the time to find out what kind of person is this person. You find out how they are, and they're doing the same thing to you too. If they're healthy, they're going to do the same thing too. They want to find out what kind of person you are too. So if both of you are not wearing any masks, you have a good start because both of you will know you're telling each other the truth, or you feel it anyway. You feel right, and then slowly let it evolve. Let it run its course and see what happens. Maybe it becomes a relationship and maybe it doesn't. That's okay. The important thing is you took the time to find out. But like I said, this is hard enough to do in person. And people say with the internet it's easier. That's in German what we say jein. Yes and no. It makes it easier in one sense where you can talk deeply, or I should say write deeply about your life in an email or whatever. And you can connect with each other mentally through emails. This is possible because those words are coming from that person, hopefully. And then you can get really involved. And then you might start developing emotions towards each other. And then suddenly you start feeling something, yeah? You smile more often, and you are now in an online relationship. But that's only a doorway. It's not a relationship. It's only a doorway. Okay? You have to go inside. So the unfortunate thing is that a lot of people think that they're in love, even though they have not met in person. Now, I know you can connect with somebody very strongly, emotionally, through the internet. Of course, you can. But there's still one thing missing. So it can't be love yet. It cannot be love yet because there's still one part missing. That's the physical. To sit beside that person, to hold hands or whatever for the first time. Just talking, getting to know each other. The bodies are talking too, as I said earlier. And that is what really can decide, is this a relationship or not? Online relationship is not a full, complete relationship. And people don't understand that because most people are not emotionally developed. So that's why they think that they are in love with somebody that they've never met. How can you be in love with somebody if you are not emotionally developed? That's the big question. How can you be in love with somebody if you are not emotionally developed? Because when you are not emotionally developed, you don't even know what love is. What you know is a false idea of love, and that false idea is really an addiction. It's not love, it's an addiction because you're not emotionally developed. The big key here is emotional development. If you are not emotionally developed, you don't know what love is. If you believe in good versus evil, this is a really easy way to tell. If you believe in good versus evil, you don't know what love is. What you do know is control and fear. But that's not love. So it's very important, very, very important to be emotionally developed. That's a really, really very important part of our lives. It really decides everything. So, online relationships. It's nice, yeah, to meet somebody online and then start talking to each other and connecting and just getting to know one another, and really nice things could happen from that. But it's not yet full because there's that one part missing, the physical. And because most of the world is emotionally underdeveloped or not even developed at all, they have two things missing. Yeah, it's worse for them because they're not emotionally developed and they haven't made a physical connection yet. So for them, there's only two things that are met. So it's worse for them. And the chances are they're going to fail. Even if they meet, it might be really good, but if they try to be involved daily in real life, in person, they're going to find it doesn't work because they're not emotionally developed. That's why it's important to be emotionally developed. So it can transform into something good, though. So the emotional development, it can make it or break it. So it can work, but you got to be emotionally developed. Now, saw something in the news. I was shocked, to tell you the truth. There was this guy from Netherlands. I saw the headline and I was like, no way. It's just the Dutch man waits 10 days in Chinese airport for girlfriend. And it has quotation marks around girlfriend. Ah, man, please forgive me for laughing. But that kind of is not, it's not good. Yeah? I mean, there's a picture of her on this BBC website. The guy's 41 years old from Holland, and he flew from Holland to the Hunan province in China in the hope of meeting his online girlfriend, a Chinese woman known only as Zhang. So he only knows part of her name. Okay? So he flew there and he ended up spending 10 days in the airport and she never showed up. Like I said, he's 41 years old and she's 26 years old. And they met in an app. So how does that work then? That must be like a singles website. So they met on the app 2 months ago and allegedly romance blossomed. And then he decided to fly to visit her, but nobody came to meet him. He refused to leave the airport for the next 10 days and was eventually taken to the hospital suffering physical exhaustion. I'm reading this from the BBC, okay? It says Miss Zhang contacted the TV channel a day after the report aired to give her side. And she says she thought it was a joke. Yeah? She said, we had advanced our romantic relationship, but later he seemed a little callous towards me. One day he sent me a photo of air tickets, and I thought it was a joke. He didn't contact me later. That's what she's saying. And she said by the time he arrived at the airport, she was away having plastic surgery. The story just doesn't get any better, yeah? So she was away because she was having plastic surgery in another province and turned her phone off. I don't mean to laugh at this. I apologize, but gosh, this was just horrible. After 2 months, yeah, it's some there's Chinese people that are saying, they're not giving him any sympathy. There's Chinese people that are saying, he must be stupid. Doesn't he know that everything in China is fake? Jeez. Some people say maybe she did go to the airport and changed her mind and turned around. That might have happened too. No matter which way you look at it, you could look at it from several different angles. But no matter which way you look at it, there's something really, really wrong. Jiminy crackers, from Netherlands to China, how far is that? That's got to be more than 100 miles, I think. I think it's what, 5,000, 6,000 miles or something like that? Jesus, he flew 5,000 miles to go to this lady. He didn't show up. He's there for 10 days, and then he refuses to leave the airport because he's saying that his girlfriend still might show up, and then she doesn't, and then finally they take him to the hospital because he's looking pretty sick. He didn't eat during the whole time. My goodness. See, this is the danger of online. I mean, people, he just knew one part of her name, Zhang. That's all he knew. This is something that I've said before. And like I say, I will say this again and again and again because this is one of my favorite topics. When you are in an online relationship, there's certain things that need to fall into place so you know that the person you are talking to is real. Correct photos should be there. Then you have to ask yourself, well, how do I know that's really the person? Well, if you have WhatsApp, you can send videos to each other. Usually anybody these days, even people who are not computer smart, have smartphones. And they know how to use WhatsApp. And they know how to make videos and send them through WhatsApp. Even if it's just 2 seconds saying, hi, here I am, and then send it to that person, and then you have an idea. So you can see that that's the person, that you really are talking to that person, that you know their name, and the more you talk to each other, you slowly, ever so slowly gain some trust. That's really important. Then with WhatsApp, you can also phone for free. Anywhere in this world, you can phone for free as long as the other person has WhatsApp too. You slowly gain trust in each other before you do anything drastic, like meeting in person. What's really important is that if you intend to take this far, then there's things that need to happen. Like you need to know each other's names, you need to know each other's addresses, and there should be some kind of phone connection. And like I said, with WhatsApp, phone calls are free. So there should be no excuse for that. And if the other person just tells you, oh, my name is Bob, and never tells you their last name, and you say, but what's your last name? And they say, oh, I'm not comfortable in giving out my last name yet because I don't really know who you are. Oh, that's safe to say. But after a couple of months, if the conversation is very, very intense, after 2 months, we should know a lot about each other. And even if you don't know a lot about each other, you shouldn't fly to that person because you don't know enough. Like this guy from Holland, he just had one photo and just knew the Zhang part of her name. That's it. And I'm sure that must have cost a lot of money. And she didn't show up. This to me sounds like a catfish. I wonder if it's really a girl at all. And is she even in China? That's another thing too. We don't know. Even though it says she contacted the media, we don't really know if that's the right person. That's the thing with the internet. You really don't 100% know. That's why you have to be careful. And that's why you shouldn't be trying to do things in such a short amount of time. When you're emotionally healthy, this is just common sense. That when you meet somebody online, you find out how they are. And if they're only writing you short emails, then you should be writing short emails too. Don't be just throwing everything at them. Don't be telling them your life story if they're not doing the same thing. You have to reciprocate. If you give too much information, they could probably use that against you. That's what makes it dangerous, because you don't 100% know who you're talking to. This is what makes it very dangerous. So you see this guy, and they just knew each other for 2 months, and then he flew over there. He only knew her first name. Didn't even know her last name. He didn't know that much about her, and he flew to meet her. That's not taking a leap of faith. That is something else. Because when you're taking a leap of faith, you have more of a healthy foundation. Sometimes we do have to take leaps of faith, but we have to be emotionally grounded for that. It's really important. It's possible to meet. You can meet somebody in 2 months. You can meet in person. But during that 2 months, you have to know each other's phone number. You have to know each other's first and last name. You should know a lot about each other. If you're going to meet in 2 months, there's nothing wrong with that. But you should know a hell of a lot about each other before you do. And with this guy from Holland, he didn't know that much. That's what makes it really, really unhealthy. He didn't even know much about this woman, other than that she's a really pretty Chinese girl in the photo. And then he flew down there. So this is a very emotionally unhealthy guy, and there's probably something wrong with his mental capacity as well to have done something like that. How come he couldn't connect with somebody from Holland? That is just not healthy to fly to somebody when you don't even have their phone number, you don't even have their last name, you don't even have their address, you don't even know much about their life, and you only have one photo of this person, and you're going to fly to meet them? That's really unhealthy. He's desperate. He has a fear of loneliness, and he finds attention online. You never know who you're writing to when you're contacting somebody online. It's so easy to pretend to be somebody else on the internet. There's so many photos out there of models who are not famous yet. They all put their portfolio online. And so a lot of people download those photos and they make fake profiles on Facebook or some single site, and then they pretend to be that pretty girl. They don't even look like her at all. Maybe they're not even the same race. Maybe they're not even the same gender. And then they start talking, feeding this guy emotional unhealthiness. And the guy falls in love because he thinks he's in love because he's emotionally unhealthy. And without even knowing her last name, without even knowing her phone number, without even knowing her address, he flew to see her. That's crazy. I hate to use that word, but it is crazy. And like I said, don't get me wrong, it's possible to meet in 2 months. But in that 2 months' time, a lot of communication has had to have happened. Gee, that's a complex sentence. Let me say that sentence easier. You can meet somebody in 2 months. That's possible. But during that 2 months, there has to be a lot of communication. A lot of communication has had to have occurred between both of you. And it is possible. A lot of good things can happen in 2 months that will make it possible for a good meeting to happen. But if you don't have that, then Meeting in 2 months is way too early. Because, like I said, he didn't even know her last name. He didn't even have her address. He didn't even know much about this girl. He just fell in love with a pretty looking Asian woman and wanted to go whatever with her. And it didn't happen. No, he's getting so much flack from the media, from people on Twitter and other places that could have a really bad side effect on him. What if he commits suicide now? When it comes to matters of the heart, you really should make sure you're at peace with your past. Because then you'll have some common sense. And then you'll know that before you meet somebody, you should know a lot of information about them. And you should find some way to verify that it's true. This television show called Catfish. Some of that might be staged, but still it shows you the possibilities of what happens when people pretend to be somebody else on the internet by creating a fake profile on whether it's Facebook or some singles website or whatever, and then really mess with people. They're playing an emotional game. For them, it's a game. They don't care if anybody gets hurt because for them, it's all a game. If you have not seen that show, I really recommend that you do because it's an eye-opening experience. You can learn from it. If you're trying to look for love online, then you need to get smart about it. It can happen, but you got to be emotionally developed. Otherwise, you're going to make some costly mistakes.
To read more about Lakota Star Knowledge Spirituality, you can read my book called Wichocha Otechike. You can see the book cover on the right side of this screen. This book contains the information to what I talk about on my Lakota Spirituality videos. To purchase this book, please click below where it says Show More. Clicking on that link will open up the description below, and there you will see a link called To Purchase My Books. As you will see, it's an eBay link. Click on that eBay link, and there you will see the information to get this book. Lila Pilamayelo. Thank you very much.